Are you wondering what the best fishing rod to get started in fishing is? It's a 8-foot surf fishing rod with a medium heavy action where the manufacturer doesn't even know the difference between power and action, so they consider medium heavy to be an action even though that's not an action. No, not really. Let me show you though. Welcome to an episode of Matt Stream Outside here on YouTube. I'm coming at you with another fishing video today. So, this video is for someone who's just getting into fishing. And if you're just getting into fishing, there's a lot you're not going to know about, especially if you don't have anyone around you who knows about fishing. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people who don't have anyone around them that knows about fishing. Fishing, even though it's a growing, popular pastime, is still not super popular. So there's a lot you end up learning about it as you do it. The point of this video is to help you understand a little more about fishing rods and what you should look for if you want to try fishing for the first time. So what I'm going to recommend, I'm going to show you some recommendations. I said that weird. Recommendations. And each recommendation is going to be different. So the first thing you're going to want to figure out is what geographical area are you fishing in, right? So does your area have a lot of lakes with public access? If that's the case, you might be doing a lot of dock fishing. Do you live on a lake house and you have your own dock? And is that going to be 90% of your fishing? Do you have a lot of rivers? You know, are you going to be fishing mostly rivers? Or maybe you don't know, right? There's a lot of us who don't know what we're going to be fishing. And that's perfectly fine because it's fun to fish everything. So you're going to want to figure out roughly what it is. Lakes, are you fishing lakes? Are you fishing rivers? Or are you fishing a mixture of the two? And if you don't know, you're probably going to end up fishing a mixture of the two. I prefer fishing on rivers. That's just me. There's different size rivers. And I'll get more into that later on in this video. So after figuring out what kind of water you're going to be fishing on, then you want to ask yourself what kind of fish you're going to target. And this is a less important question at the end of the day, because a lot of fishermen or fisherwomen or anglers, they're going after anything that bites, especially when they're just getting started. That's the best thing you can do if you're just getting started. Go after whatever bites, because then you can slowly start to learn each and every different fish and figure out what you like targeting the best. And one of the funniest things, when I started fishing, I used to just fish for whatever bites. And slowly, it takes quite a while, you end up learning what you like fishing for the best. And what you'll start doing after that is learning where your target species is, how to catch your target species, and what your target species goes after. But that's for a whole nother video. This is on the basic knowledge that you know nothing about fishing, or that you've been doing a little research, you don't have anyone around to help, and you want to know what you should get for your first rod. Well, if I didn't know what I was gonna get for fishing, if I didn't know where I was going to be fishing most of the time for fishing, let's say I have a good mix of rivers and lakes, which I do around where I live, and I just want to fish for anything that bites, then I would go with a pole like one one of these. Or rod, because this is more about the rod in this video. So, here I have a 6-foot Daiwa D-Shock medium light. What I like about a 6-foot medium light for someone who doesn't know what they're going to be fishing for is that it's really fun for both little fish and big fish. It's perfect for trout, and it's perfect for most panfish. On top of that, it still has enough backbone to handle a bass just as good. And to be quite honest, if you think that you need, the heaviest power rod to handle bass, you're lying to yourself, because just about any rod can handle a bass if you know how to play the bass right. But assuming you're a beginner, you probably don't know that much about rod power, and that will be another video. So at the end of the day, what I would recommend for a pull for a beginner is a 6-foot medium light. Now the 6 feet is because if you don't know if you're going to be fishing in rivers and lakes, that 6 foot is a nice length where you can bushwhack through some pretty small streams and tight brush, and you'll be fine at the end of the day. And this rod in particular is made out of fiberglass, so you can do plenty of, bumping into trees and rod bending and rod dropping, and your rod will be just fine. So, for bushwhacking through rivers and streams, this will hold up just fine. Likewise, if you're at a lake and you need some distance, a lot of people who use long fishing rods argue that they use them for distance. With a couple of split shot on the end, you can cast pretty far with this. And on top of that, if you don't have a net, the shorter rod makes the fish easier to land. The shorter rod also makes it easier if you're fishing from a boat. So, it's something to keep in mind. Now, I'm going to pop this back in. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Okay, so the other rod I grabbed is another 6-foot. It's a medium rod. Likewise, if you don't know if you're going to be fishing at rivers or lakes, or if you plan on fishing both, a 6-foot medium fiberglass will work just fine, because once again, you'll be able to bushwhack, and you'll also be able to add some split shot on the end and get some pretty far casts. Now, let's pop this baby back in. Okay, now let's say you live around lakes. You got no rivers, or maybe the rivers you fish are these big, wide open rivers, right? You're not doing any small streams whatsoever, just pure wide open lakes and, shore bank, and you have a pretty big open area behind you. And, you got these big, giant rivers with pretty open areas, lots of public access. So, that's when you would go with something like one of these. This is okay, so right here, I have a Daiwa D-Shock fiberglass 6'6" pole, or rod, whatever you... There's a difference between a rod and a pole. I just keep calling them poles by accident. And, right here, a carbon fiber 6'6" Abu Garcia, but this one's a medium light. So, that 6'6" length will allow you to launch some casts a lot further. You know, no need for the split shot. You'll get a far cast, or you can put split shot in and get an even further cast. It will also allow you to have a little bit more control of the line, because when you have that shorter rod and your line's out at a long distance, when you go to set the hook, you're not going to have as much feel of the line. When you have this nice long rod, you know, you have that extra length to help control the line if you're reeling in a fish or a lure. No, pretty self-explanatory. Not much else to say about that. Pop these back in. Now let's say that you are 100% sure that most of your fishing is going to be on a small stream. That's when you're going to want to look for something like this. This is a ugly stick. It is a 5-foot light action rod. If you are small stream fishing, that's exactly what you're gonna want. The rod tip is a little messed up. I did that because the rod tip warped and annoyed me over time. This is a 10-year-old rod. I tried to pop it back into place with pliers. It didn't work so great. So yeah, if you are planning on only fishing small streams, you're going to want to look for you would be able to get away with a 6-foot rod, but a 5 or even a 5.5-foot rod would be great. And you're probably going to want to look for a lighter action. I would go with a light or a medium light. I wouldn't suggest an ultralight until you get to know more about fishing. So, those 3 things covered, I got a little bonus tip for you in this video. Does your rod power matter much? The answer to that question is yes and no. It doesn't matter as much as people at the stores will have you believe. If you learn how to control the fish, you'll be just fine with any rod power, in my opinion. But that's for another video that I'll have coming up. At the end of this video, I hope that I helped you make a rod selection. I'm going to recap what I went over. If you don't know what you're fishing for, if you don't know what bodies of water are around you, rivers and lakes, or if you plan on fishing both, for your first fishing rod ever, look for a 6-foot medium or medium light fishing rod. Fiberglass is a great choice for a first timer because it's less breakable. If you are planning on fishing big lakes and huge rivers with tons of public access, you can look for a 6.5-foot or longer rod. They make 7 or 8-foot rods. Personally, I always like shorter rods better. And then, if you plan on only small stream fishing, you can look for just about any 5-foot, 5.5-foot rod. Light action. You know, you can get away with a 6-foot rod, but that shorter length really helps out a ton. If you were even fishing these really tiny streams, you could probably even use a little tiny jigging rod and you would be just fine. So at the end of this, I hope if you are trying to figure out which rod you need for fishing, I hope this helped you out. Thank you for checking out this video and the channel. If you liked the video, give it a like. Consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more outdoorsy or fishing content. And good luck with your fishing, and stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be about rod power.